Most mountains that kill climbers do it slowly. Altitude sickness, exhaustion, cold that builds over days. Nanga Parbat is different. This mountain has a nickname that was earned over decades of expeditions, storms, and disasters before anyone ever reached its summit. The nickname is the Killer Mountain. And unlike most nicknames in mountaineering, this one is not an exaggeration. Before anyone stood on its summit, more climbers had died here than on any other major mountain on Earth. Nanga Parbat stands at 8,126 meters in the Gilgit-Baltistan region of northern Pakistan. It is the 9th highest mountain on Earth. What makes it different from the other 8,000-meter peaks is its location. While the other giants of the Himalayas and Karakoram cluster together across Nepal, Tibet, and northern Pakistan, Nanga Parbat stands completely alone at the far western end of the Himalayan range, rising directly above the deep gorge of the Indus River. There are no neighboring 8,000-meter peaks, no shared ridgelines, just a single massive pyramid of rock and ice standing in isolation above one of the deepest river valleys in the world. The valley floor of the Indus lies roughly 7,000 meters below the summit, the greatest vertical rise from valley to peak of any mountain on Earth. From the Karakoram Highway, which passes directly below the mountain, the entire south face is visible in one unobstructed view from the road. The Karakoram Highway, which runs directly below Nanga Parbat, is one of the most dramatic roads on Earth. It follows the Indus River through a gorge so deep that the walls block the sun for much of the day. The road was built over 14 years between Pakistan and China, largely by hand, through terrain that most engineers considered impossible. Sections of it collapse into the river every monsoon season and are rebuilt. For most of its length, it is a single lane carved into a cliff face. And then, at a certain point driving north from Islamabad, the gorge opens, and Nanga Parbat appears. Not gradually, not in pieces. The entire mountain comes into view at once. The south face rising 4,600 meters from the valley floor to the summit. A wall of rock and ice so large that it takes several seconds to take in what is being seen. Buses stop. Drivers pull over. Passengers get out and stand on the road looking up. There is no mountain visible from a public road anywhere else in the world that looks like this. It is simply too large to look real from ground level. And the standard climbing route begins right there, on the face visible from the road, the Diamir face, the western side of the mountain, directly above the Karakoram Highway. That isolation has a consequence no other Himalayan peak shares in quite the same way. Nanga Parbat sits directly in the path of moist air masses moving north from the plains of Pakistan. When those air masses hit the mountain, they are rapidly forced upward. The moisture cools and turns into sudden, violent, and extreme storms that develop high on the mountain with no warning visible from below. A climber at base camp can look up at a clear sky and have no idea that a full-blown blizzard is already forming at 7,000 meters above. The mountain generates its own weather, and it gives no warning. Climbers set out for high camps in calm, clear conditions, and may return to find a meter of fresh snow sitting on the fixed ropes above them. One odd fact about Nanga Parbat. According to Guinness World Records, it is the fastest growing mountain on Earth. The Indian tectonic plate is still driving northward into Asia at several centimeters per year, and the collision that built the Himalayas is still actively happening beneath the surface today. Nanga Parbat is rising at a rate of 7 millimeters every year. The mountain is still being actively built, and it is nowhere close to finished. The name tells part of the story. Nanga Parbat means naked mountain in Urdu and Hindi, a reference to the exposed rock on its southern face, stripped bare by the ferocious winds that scour the upper mountain year-round. That southern wall is called the Rupal Face, and it is the highest continuous mountain face on Earth. 4,600 meters of rock and ice rising from the valley floor to the summit in one unbroken sweep. The north face of the Eiger, one of the most feared walls in European alpinism, is 1,800 meters high. The Rupel face is more than 2.5 times that. The western wall is called the Diamir face, and this is where the standard climbing route runs. Compared to the Rupel face, it is almost approachable. On Nanga Parbat, an almost approachable route is still extremely dangerous. Between 1895 and 1953, no one reached the summit of Nanga Parbat. 31 people died trying. That is the highest pre-summit death toll ever recorded on any mountain. In 1934, a sudden storm during descent killed 9 members of a German expedition. In 1937, an avalanche hit the high camp in the middle of the night. 8 climbers and 9 high-altitude porters, 17 people, were killed simultaneously while they slept. No warning, no time to react. In 1953, Austrian climber Hermann Buhl finally reached the summit alone, without supplemental oxygen, after a 17-hour solo push from the highest camp. On the descent, too exhausted to move safely in the dark, he stood upright on a small ledge at over 8,000 meters in minus 30-degree cold without a sleeping bag, and waited for dawn. He made it back into camp 40 hours after leaving it. Today, the standard route is the Kindshofer route on the Diamir face, first climbed in 1962. The journey to base camp begins at Islamabad International Airport. A full day's drive north along the Karakoram highway reaches the small town of Chilas. From Chilas, a jeep track follows the Diamir Valley upward to the base of the mountain. Base camp sits at approximately 4,200 meters in a high meadow below the Diamir Glacier, with the full west face of Nanga Parbat rising directly ahead. The approach from Chilas to base camp takes several days on foot through the Diamir Valley, passing through high summer pasture and glacial moraine that is unlike almost any other base camp approach in the Karakoram. The Kindshofer route climbs the left side of the Diamir face to avoid the hanging glaciers and avalanche chutes that dominate the face's center. The lower section is the technical crux, steep, rocky gullies at altitude with loose rock in warm conditions and black ice when temperatures fall. Camp 1 sits at approximately 4,900 meters. Camp 2, at approximately 6,000 meters, marks the top of the crux section and the start of the Kindshofer ice field, a wide, sun-exposed slope of ice in the direct path of every storm approaching from the west. There is no shelter on the Kindshofer ice field, and traversing it in deteriorating conditions is where most expeditions are forced to turn around. Camp 3 is at approximately 6,850 meters. Camp 4, the highest camp and summit launch point, sits at approximately 7,400 meters. From Camp 4, the route crosses the Bajan Gap above the Bajan Glacier and climbs onto the Silver Plateau at approximately 7,800 meters, the broad upper snowfield that gives the mountain its distinctive silhouette when seen from the valley. The plateau looks deceptively flat from a distance. At 7,800 meters, with the body deep in oxygen debt, it demands everything that remains. The final pyramid rises from the plateau in steep, mixed steps to the summit at 8,126 meters. Summit day from Camp 4 takes between 12 and 18 hours round trip. At this altitude, the body is past acclimatization and into deterioration. The mountain's weather can close the upper sections in under an hour. The summit view on a clear day reaches the entire western Himalayan chain, Karakoram peaks to the north, the Indus River 7,000 meters below, and on the far side, the Rupel face, the same wall that was visible from the valley on the very first day of the approach.